Lab 13 will focus on population dynamics. In other words, how population changes size is going to vary or change. So as we scroll through here, you're going to have 4 photos, and you're going to notice that none of your photos for this particular lab include a selfie. You will also need your colored pencils from your lab kit and a calculator. So you're going to read the information on population, look at the different graphs, answer the questions. Make sure you know the different phases of the graphs, things like growth phase, exponential phase, etc. And as we continue to go through here, you're going to do a little model on population growth. We're going to continue to scroll. So you're going to use what you learned in the lab to fill in this table. So I've started you off, I've actually given you almost 3 examples. So you're going to take the first hour, which is 1 bacteria, times 16, which is 16. Then you're going to take that number, and that's going to be our starting number for hour 2. So 16 times 16 is 256. And you're going to take that number, and that is the starting population for hour 3. You would then multiply 256 times 16. That number then would be the beginning of hour 4. And you're going to repeat that until you're all the way down to hour 7. And I'm just going to give you a hint as we work through here. The next thing you're going to do is graph your data. And the hint I'm going to give you is the graph goes all the way up to 270 million. So your numbers are going to be close to that height. So they're going to be pretty close. So it is very possible, as mentioned here, hours 1 through 5, your numbers are going to be fairly low because our first point on our graph is 10 million. So low, 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 and then it's going to start to increase exponentially towards hours 6 or 7. So make sure you do that carefully using a colored pencil. That is photo 1. Then you're going to continue reading about different kinds of graphs. And you're going to watch a little video on populations, answer the questions. And you're going to continue through this using all of the data. So before I go to the next page, this table 13.2 is going to show you the date and the population size. So for example, in 1804 AD, we were at 1 billion, and then we doubled it by 1927 to 2 billion. So we had doubled our population. Again, 1927, we had 2 billion, and we had doubled by 1975. So you're going to use these numbers, that's billion by the way, for the next graph. So that graph is figure 13.7. So you're going to graph your data. And you're going to use that for some of these questions. So you're going to answer questions 18, 19, 20. And then when you get to 21, that's referring to that table I just showed you. So it says doubled from 250 million to 500 million. So you're going to look to see where that number went. And that was from 1600 AD to 950 AD. So that's how many years? So you're going to take 1600 minus 950, and then I'll give you a number. So I kind of showed you some of those. So you're going to put the years over here and then subtract to figure out how many years. And then you're going to answer questions 20, 22, 23, and that is going to be your photo 2. Then you need to read carefully. This is the one that usually tricks you up about all the different ways that we can calculate population. So we have things like birth rate, growth rate, death rate, and I give you examples of each, definitions of each. And then on photo 3, you're going to do those calculations. So use these formulas, and this is where you get a little tripped up. So for example, letter A, what is the US birth rate per 1,000? You must show your calculations to get full credit. So if we use our equation, birth rate right here, number of births, so you would take 3,745,000, etc., divided by total population size, which there's the population size, so 334, etc. You're going to divide that, multiply by 1,000. That's answer A. You're going to do the same thing for B, only it's death rate. Then when you get to answer our question C, it is going to be growth rate. So here's that equation, your birth rate times your death rate. In other words, your answer to question A minus your answer to question B is going to be the answer to question C. The natural rate of increase is going to be your number, okay, here, so it's your answer to letter C, divided by 10. And then for doubling time, you're going to take your answer to number or letter D. 70 divided by D is going to give you that. So you can kind of read through that and it will make sense. That is photo 3. You're going to practice more on questions 27 and 28. And then I'm going to keep scrolling. We have some world populations to look at. So you're going to answer these questions by clicking on the link, which is World Population Data Link. So you're going to click on the link, which I have pulled up, and then you're going to literally find the country that we're asking for. So this one says, look at the graph. So we look at the graph, we're going to answer the question. And then question 32, South Africa and Italy. So you're going to go to this, look up the content, South Africa and Italy, look up the information, and answer the questions. Then there's a few more questions at the end, and then that is the end of Lab 13.